Hello and welcome to the Gillette Rugby Podcast, and this week we're joined by England coach Brian Ashton after he announces his 30-man squad for the Rugby World Cup. Brian, really the first kind of question I wanted to ask, it's a bit of a cliched one, but how difficult was it to finalise your 30?
Well, very difficult. The 47 players that were with us at the start all worked incredibly hard. And obviously had a real desire to be part of the final 30 and to sort of eliminate, if that's the right word, I hate that word, but not to invite back is probably a better phrase. The first 7 was tough enough, and then suddenly to knock it down from, well, it was 39 effectively because Dan Ward-Smith had left us, to knock it down from 39 to 30 last weekend was really a tough decision, but it's all part of the job. It's got to be done. Rules are rules, and you've got to go by them.
How did the players accept it, the ones who didn't make the cut?
In different ways. Obviously every single one of them was bitterly disappointed. I suspect some were more frustrated than others, and I can understand why, because a couple of them hadn't had the opportunity to show what they could do, and that's always very, very difficult. But by and large they were pretty positive, and all those players are on standby and all said, look, we're going to keep working hard for our clubs, etc., and we'll show you, A, that you made a mistake by not picking us in the first place, and B, if we are required, then we'll be right up to speed and ready to play a part in England's World Cup.
There's a very experienced look to the squad. Were you slightly surprised at how many, perhaps, of the old guard got themselves back up, if you like, for this World Cup? Because we'd seen a lot of impressive youngsters in the Six Nations, but suddenly everyone seemed to run into form again with the World Cup coming up.
Well, yeah, whether it was an accident of timing or not, I really don't know. But the closer I looked at what had happened in previous World Cups, it's pretty evident that players who've been there before, who've got the mental strength and the winning mentality, etc., are going to be invaluable in a World Cup tournament. And I think we've got 12 or 13 of those now from 2003. Some of whom looked as though they'd gone past it, some of whom have been injured, and but in fact, as you quite rightly say, they actually came into form in the last third of the season. They timed the run in really well, and they've worked incredibly hard. And the evidence of the first 2 games that we've played so far is that the guys that we're referring to now are in pretty good nick.
Well, let's refer to one of them who obviously catches the headlines because of who he is, Lawrence Dallaglio. A few people have suggested perhaps he shouldn't be in the squad, but you seem pretty convinced you've got exactly the right man for the job.
Well, let's talk about in terms of his fitness, purely his fitness. I've never seen him work as hard as he has done this last 8 weeks since he's been with us. And, that's a credit to the nature of the guy, because he must have been through all this before, and to want to do it with that much desire again, is just typical of the man. I thought he played well when he came on as a replacement against Wales, and I thought he made a good fist of last week's game as well against what was a very, very strong French pack. That was the first time he'd started an international game for some years, and it's the first time for a long time he's played 80 minutes rugby, and that's sort of halfway through pre-season, as it were, for us. And everybody knows what he brings other than that. Lawrence, whether you put a captain behind his name or whether you don't, has a massive influence on what's going on. And I'm staggered sometimes when I read that he's going to be a divisive influence. It's been totally the opposite. He's pulled the squad together when it's needed, along with other players, not just on his own. He's been incredibly supportive. He's very positive. He's got massive belief in what can be achieved, and he's just a real asset with us.
Final question on the World Cup squad. You obviously took the job not that long ago. All things considered, are you pleased with the 30 men you are taking to France?
I am, yeah. I'm pleased with it, yeah. It's if you'd asked me in January, are those the 30 players to be going to the World Cup, I can hold my hand up and say, I don't think so, no. But I mean, things change and have changed, as you've alluded to, quite dramatically. And it's been an up and down roller coaster ride in all sorts of different ways over the past 6 months, but I think that was largely what I inherited, and I knew it wasn't going to be an easy ride up to and including this World Cup, but I'm pretty happy now with not only the sort of talent of the players that are going, but the sort of spirit that's within the camp at the moment is one that's really good.
Well, our thanks then to Brian Ashton, the England coach, for joining us this week on the Gillette Rugby Podcast.